This is the Fearless Agent Podcast, where you learn how to make way more money fast selling real estate with your host, the Fearless Agent himself, Bob Leffler.
Hey everybody, this is Bob here at the Fearless Agent Podcast for real estate sales professionals like you, where we explain that everything you've been taught by the whole real estate industry is wrong, and you will make lots more money in way less time by doing the exact opposite. So I'm going to begin. This is our first episode of the podcast, and I just kind of want to set the framework for you and let you know where we're headed. So we're going to talk about what every Fearless Agent coaching student of mine experiences. So I want you to imagine that you're walking up to the door of your next listing appointment, getting ready to ring the doorbell or knock on the door. And this is one of the 5 listing appointments that you've scheduled in the past week. And you know some things that every Fearless Agent knows. You know that you're going to get the listing. You know that you're going to get it at full commission. And when I say full commission, I mean it's a percentage that rhymes with heaven and is not 11. You're going to get a 1-year listing. You're going to have the seller begging you to underprice their house. You're going to sell that house for way more than it's worth. The seller is going to send you a steady stream of referrals from then on. And that's what every Fearless Agent experiences. But you know what? It wasn't always that way for me. When I got into real estate, it was 1984. The interest rates were 15% coming down from 21. I am from Scottsdale, Arizona, and Scottsdale was the fastest selling part of Phoenix, but the average house took a year to a year and a half to sell. And I was a high school dropout. I had a giant afro, and my real estate car was a Harley. So I think you can agree I was poised for success. But you know what? I knew that I would be successful. I knew I would be successful because I had a good attitude. How many of you would agree that attitude is everything? Yeah, well, it just goes to show you how wrong you can be, because I failed miserably for 5 long, torture-filled years earning a poverty-level income while having a good attitude. That's the good news, I guess. So one day, something happened that changed my entire career. I go to a seminar, and it was the first seminar I'd ever been to where they actually taught sales. Everything, I don't know what all these other seminars were teaching, but it had nothing to do with sales. So I'm sitting next to this lady, and she has about 6 months in the business. She's got no listings, no closings, no escrows, no hope of succeeding. And I remember turning to her and saying, "Hey, where have they been hiding this for 5 years? This is it. Obviously, this will work." So she and I signed up for that course, and 90 days later, she has 19 listings, and I had listings and sales and listings of mine that sold and closings totaling 50. So it was like overnight success, a little later than I had hoped, obviously. So we kept, retaking that course over and over again, getting better and better at sales, and then ended up joining forces, ended up being the top producing team of any size for Century 21 in the state of Arizona. So what was it that we didn't learn at that course? Well, we didn't learn anything about real estate, but we did learn everything about sales. So on this podcast, we're going to talk about sales and how to make money. Now, one thing I think you might have noticed is that if you look at the real estate industry and all the people who get their license today, out of all those agents that get their license today, about 85% of them will not even be renewing their license in a couple of years. They will fail out of the business completely. They will tie on the orange apron at Home Depot and explain to their friends and family how that real estate thing didn't work out. Then you've got about maybe 10% of those that sign up and get licensed today that are going to be renewing their license, but either in a constant state of what I would call failure, like I was. I renewed my license after 2 years. I think a lot of people wondered why I even bothered. But let's just say I was earning way below my potential. So the people that come to me for coaching, they're in that group. They know they're earning way below their potential. And then there's about 5% of those people that immediately have success. They're earning an above average income right off the bat. And of course, half of them did it by marrying the broker, right? Or they have their brother-in-law's a builder, or they have some magic success formula that I didn't have. Not that I'm bitter, maybe a little, I don't know. So the question is, what is it that the two failing groups have in common? Well, one is they just never learned the secrets to selling real estate. What they did is they soaked up all the training that's available to you from the industry and look at the failure rate in the industry. So obviously that teaches you to fail. So the opposite of that, doing the opposite of what everybody teaches you to do, is going to virtually guarantee your success. So I just want to start with this question for you. Here's what we're here to talk about, by the way. We're here to talk about, on this podcast, we're not going to have a lot of topics. It's going to be one topic. It's going to be how you are going to earn $100,000 to $200,000 extra over the next 12 months and take weekends off, okay? Weekends off means no phone calls, or take 2 days a week off. No phone calls, no emails, no texting about real estate, an actual day off while earning an extra $100,000 to $200,000 a year. So how is that going to happen is what we're going to talk about today. So let's just start by analyzing you. If you got a piece of paper and something to write with handy or a way to take notes, maybe this would help you. So we're just going to analyze you. If the money was the same, okay, and just from personal preference, would you rather do sellers, listings only, or buyers only, if the money was the same and those were your only two choices? Now, most people that call me for coaching, when I ask them that question, they say, well, if the money was the same, I'd rather do listings. The funny thing is, when I go to their website, the first thing I see is search for homes, which obviously is aimed right at buyers. And all the activities they're doing is the opposite of what you do if you really wanted to focus on sellers only. Now, do I recommend that you do sellers only or buyers only instead of like 50-50? Yes, I would recommend you do one or the other, because focus is for winners and multitasking is for losers. So focus on listings or focus on buyers. Now, most of the people that come to me for coaching, by far, are wanting to focus on sellers. But again, I want you to get rich, and you're not going to get rich if you're doing something that you hate. So let's say, for the purpose of this conversation, that you want to focus on sellers only. Now, everybody sets goals, okay? Everybody sets goals, but there are two kinds of people. There's people who set goals and then they change their activities to hit that goal. And then there's people who set goals and then they change their goal to meet those activities that they were unwilling to change. So we are going to change our activities, okay? So I want you to just think this through. These are all the sources of business for you if you want to get listings, okay? So number one, there's calling your sphere of influence, friends, people that know you, family members, past clients, anybody that you could describe yourself to and they would know who you are, asking for referrals. So please write that down, asking for referrals. Then there's calling for sale by owners. Then you've heard they eat their young, right? Well, that's not so much true. Then there's calling expireds and cancels. Then there's cold calling up and down the street, asking people if they would like to sell their house. Then there's door knocking, weather permitting. Then there's holding open houses. And there are no other things. Okay, so that's all the ways that the proactive ways. Now there's also spending lots of time and money and energy on advertising schemes that may or may not work. But I'm talking about the proactive things where you can make appointments happen this week. So just circle or cross through any of those activities that you would not be willing to do for, let's say, $400,000 a year. So if any one of those activities would pay you $400,000 a year by doing them, are there any of them that you would be unwilling to do? Because I always say that the secret to life is not doing what you love. It really is about avoiding what you hate, don't you think? So I don't want you to do anything that you would hate, so it's going to suck the life out of you, because the most best thing, let's say, on that list would probably make you $400 an hour minimum. But the second best thing, if you were unwilling to do that most best thing, would be enough that you'd be happy and you'd have a happy life. So cross out the ones that you just say, oh, I would be unwilling to do them. So again, it's calling your sphere, asking for referrals, calling FSBOs, calling expireds, cold calling up and down the street, door knocking, and holding open houses. And again, there are no other things. Now remember, there's two kinds of people. The people that set a goal and they are unwilling to change their activities, so they change their goal, or the people who change their activities to meet their goal. So what is the formula for achieving your goal? So I'm going to, because we're on the radio here, I guess, I'm going to have you write down the number 40, okay? So if you were brand new in real estate, there's a guy that I coach. His name is Tanner. He was 1 week got his license 1 week and then calls me. He Googled me or whatever and finds me. So he knew that he was getting into an industry where there is massive failure all around him, at his own company, at all the other companies, and he didn't want to become a statistic. So he calls me up. We have a little chat. I'm talking about this kind of stuff with him. And then he is one of those rare guys. He's 23 years old. His wife has a real estate license as well. But he's just one of those rare guys that is willing to do exactly what you tell him to do, not ask questions, not get creative, not try to change stuff. And he did, let's see, this year will be his first year, and he will do 120 closings in his first year of real estate. So that is extraordinary by most people's standards, certainly by the industry standards. But I want you to just write down the number 40. If you were brand new in real estate, or let's say you're doing 20, last 12 months, then my goal for you would be to do 40 and do them at full commission. It rhymes with heaven, and you keep 4%, okay, on the listings. And then you do 40 of those. So you figure out what your average sales price is. So let's say it's, $200,000. So what would 4% of $200,000 be? And that would be $8,000, and multiply that times 40. You do the math on your own math. So here's the thing about goal setting. When somebody says to me, and by the way, here's the formula, so please write this down. Schedule 5 listing appointments a week, all right? You just don't get off the phone until you have scheduled 5 listing appointments a week, all right? Whatever it takes. 2 of those are going to cancel on you. You know that. You're going to go on 3, and you'll get 1. Now, that Tanner guy, is his odds better than that? Yes, of course. He's a highly trained, fearless agent. He sits on a throne made of the skulls of his enemies. He doesn't have to put up with the kind of baloney that other agents do. But it wasn't always that way. When he was brand new coaching with me, he'd schedule 5, 2 would cancel, he'd go on 3, and he'd get 1. He, by the way, has never scheduled less than 6 listing appointments in a week. He has scheduled as many as 9. He's never taken less than 1 listing in a week. So if you schedule 5, 2 cancel, you'll go on 3, you'll get 1. And that's probably your ratios now, even when you're not a fearless agent, okay? So here's the thing. When somebody says to me, hey, my goal is to do $10 million in production, you know what? I know they're not going to hit their goal. When somebody says to me, I want to gross $300,000, I know they're not going to hit their goal. When somebody says, I want to net after expenses 150 taxable income, I know they're not going to hit their goal. When they say, I want to do 40 closed transactions in the next 12 months, I know they're not going to hit their goal. But when somebody, that rare individual, says, my goal is to schedule 5 listing appointments a week, and I'm not going to get off the phone until that thing happens, I know they're going to do the 10 million. I know they're going to do the 40. I know they're going to do the 300 gross. I know they're going to do the 150 net. I know they're going to hit their goal. So, if any of what I've been talking about, by the way, makes any sense to you at all, and you are earning less selling real estate than you wish you were, and you are open to the idea of having some help with that, and you would like to learn more about Fearless Agent, I want you to know you can call me anytime. By the way, you're not going to get any big high pressure, I'm not going to close you, any of that. If we have a chat, no one's going to follow up with you and say you're a loser because you didn't sign up for coaching. We don't do that. All I'm here for is to help you. So I want you to write down my phone number. It's 480-385-8810. That's my cell phone number. And let's just see if you and what you're trying to do and what we do at Fearless Agent, if it would even be a good fit. So again, it's 480-385-8810. By the way, I love talking to realtors. Don't think you're bothering me. Don't email me. Don't text me, because this is sales. It's about the telephone. Always call me at 480-385-8810. And by the way, if you can't afford coaching, but you wish you could, please visit FearlessAgent.com, watch our webinar. It's 45 minutes long. Take lots of notes. Go to the video training page. And here's my guarantee. Those free videos on my website will be better coaching for free than you would pay any other coach any amount of money for. And if you ever have a question, you can always call me, because we want to help you for free so you can afford our coaching as soon as possible. So we are here for you. Again, 480-385-8810. Go to FearlessAgent.com. So now, I just want to mention I was at a speaker event, and I met this lady, and her name was Denise. So there's this older guy, 70-some years old, and he's talking about how he's a bicycling coach. So he points to Denise, who's age 43. She's a mother of 3. And he says, yeah, and I coach Denise here. So, he's talking about whatever he's talking about. And then I'm out in the parking lot, and I see Denise, and I said, hey, Denise, you are she's a speaker, and so am I. I said, so you race bicycles? She goes, well, not exactly. She said, I set the world land speed record for women on a bicycle. I said, really? She goes, yeah, and I'm going to set the overall land speed record on a bicycle for both men and women. So I said, well, when you're riding the bicycle, are you like doing it behind some sort of a vehicle that blocks the wind or something like that? And she said, yes. She goes, I ride behind a Land Rover. I said, well, how fast? She goes, I do it on the Bonneville Salt Flats, I said, well, how fast did you go on the bicycle? Now, I want you to think for a second how fast you think she went on a bicycle. And just write that number down, the miles per hour that she went on a bicycle, okay? Okay, here's the number. She went 147 miles per hour. And that John guy, who's like 70 years old, he went 167 miles an hour. And if you went and Googled Denise Mueller, land speed record on a bicycle, you could watch the YouTube video. It is frightening. I can't even imagine going. I had a Harley. I don't think I ever went over 120, and I was pooping in my pants. So it's insane. And there have been people killed trying to do it. So I said to her, I go, 147 miles an hour. How in the world do you go 147 miles an hour? And she said, the secret to goal setting to me. She said, you just don't get off the bike until it goes 147 miles an hour. You just don't get off the phone until you've scheduled 5 listing appointments a week. That's how you schedule 5 listing appointments a week. So if I said, hey, I'm going to hire you to paint my house, you wouldn't be saying, well, how many brush strokes am I going to have to do a day to get the house painted? You just start painting, and you wouldn't quit painting until the house is painted. And that's the secret to prospecting. So there's things that people just don't seem to get about the real estate industry. You know, not too long ago, or I guess it was about a year and a half ago, I was in Rhode Island. And I'm from Arizona, so Rhode Island, I'm out on Newport, and it's beautiful, and it's kind of like dusk, and actually it was 9 o'clock at the night, but that's kind of when the sun goes down. So it's 9 o'clock at night, and I'm going in this little ice cream parlor, little family ice cream parlor, and it's right next door to this old converted gas station, and the guy that runs the gas station, or now it's a like snow blowers and lawnmowers repair shop. And he sells them. So he's pushing in, the guy that owns the place, he's pushing in the lawnmowers. And then at the end of the day, and then there's, the ice cream shop. I go in there and I get ice cream, and there's a high school girl serving me the ice cream. And then this older lady is ringing me up. And I said, are you the owner of the ice cream shop here? And she says, yes, I am. And I said, well, it's very nice, So then I go outside and I'm eating my ice cream, watching the guy wheel in the lawnmowers. It's lovely outside. And I was thinking to myself, both of these people were at work this morning at 7 a.m. I guarantee you that lawnmower guy at 7 a.m. was there. And I guarantee you that older lady, she was there at 7 a.m. And I don't know anybody who owns their own business that doesn't work a 14-hour day. And I do too. And I'm not complaining. It's a blessing, okay? So real estate, people don't get that. When you own your own business, when you're in real estate, you own your own business. And this is not like I'm going to prospect 3 hours a day and make an above average income. And I'm not saying that could never happen, but it usually does not happen. So I want you to know that if you start prospecting at 9 a.m. and you go till noon, and then you have lunch, and then you get back on the phone at 2 in the afternoon, and you prospect until 5, and then you have dinner. And let's say you have a listing appointment at 7 p.m., and probably if you get the listing, that's going to be 2 hours minimum, and then you get home probably at 10 p.m., and you've earned maybe $8,000. So that's a pretty good day. Or if you had a 2:30 in the afternoon listing appointment and a 7 p.m. listing appointment, and you were prospecting at 9 a.m., that's a $16,000 day or a $20,000 day for some of you, depending on your price range. So that's what we do. But you take weekends off. No phone calls, no emails, no texting on the weekend. And that turns out to be a pretty good life. So here's the way I look at real estate. If you knew that real estate was hard work and low pay, like I've got guys that take care of my yard for me, okay? They come over and they're doing the trimming and the mowing and all that kind of stuff. These guys are doing hard work and pretty low pay. Well, what real estate is long hours and very high pay. So that's your choice in life. You can own your own business in real estate and work long hours for very high pay, or you can go get a civilian job and work very hard for very low pay, or you can do what realtors do mostly and not work long hours and have very low pay. It's easy work, though. That's the trade-off. So if you're the type of person that is willing to work long hours for very high pay, I'm talking about $400 an hour, then real estate is for you, and maybe Fearless Agent Coaching is for you. So I'm going to give you the Fearless Agent schedule. So write these numbers down. It's 9 a.m., noon, 2:30, and 7 p.m. All of your appointments have to be at 2:30 in the afternoon and 7 p.m. Because if you do a listing appointment at 4 in the afternoon, you can't do one at 2:30, you can't do one at 7. 9 a.m. is prospecting time. That's sacred and religious, so that never gets violated. Lunch is at noon, dinner's at 5. So you can only do one listing a day. So you've cut your income in half for the day. So if you want to double your income next year, or maybe, each day double your income, not next year, but you can double your income for the year by always scheduling all your appointments, whether it's with a buyer, a seller, an investor, at either 2:30, at 7, always have lunch at noon, always eat dinner at 5, always start prospecting at 9 a.m. And so here's the perfect day. Imagine you called from 9 a.m. till noon, had lunch, then you're back on the phone. You don't have a 2:30 appointment. You call again until you eat dinner. You eat dinner at 5. Let's say you just stayed on the phone until 8 p.m., and you scheduled 5 listing appointments that day. Here's the question. Would it be worth it? Because you know that you're going to do 40 transactions. If you scheduled 5 in one day, you know you could do 5 in 1 week. Now, I've never scheduled more than 5 in one day. I have coaching students that have. But don't get off the phone until you've scheduled 5 listing appointments in 1 week. That is the secret. So noon, what does that look like? If you eat lunch at noon every day, then your whole day has to wrap around that. And the whole rest of the world is doing that. So let's say you and I went to lunch together. Here's what that would look like. We would go in the restaurant. We would leave our phones in the car. And then we would have a nice chat and talk about stuff, and we would be engaged with each other. And we'd look around the restaurant at all the losers who are typing at each other on their phone. So you need a little off-the-grid time. So you've prospected from 9 until noon, and now you need a break. So then we get done with lunch. If you have a 2:30 listing appointment, you go on it. If you don't, you get back on the phone and do telephone prospecting until 5. At 5 p.m., you have dinner. You're off the grid again, and then you either have a 7 p.m. listing appointment or you don't. If you do, you go on it. You'll be done at 10 or back home by 10. And that's the most profitable Fearless Agent schedule. Now, some of you are part-time people. You've got issues in your life. Some people have special needs kids. They have an ailing parent. I coach a lot of people who are oddly police officers because they have a pension that's come in, so they have to keep doing that. But they modify that schedule to fit their schedule. So if that schedule doesn't work for you, that's the perfect schedule. You modify it until it does. So whatever your issues are, we're always going to work around those. So again, if any of this made sense to you, I want you to go to FearlessAgent.com. I want to thank you for joining us today. Please do visit us at FearlessAgent.com. You can always call me directly at 480-385-8810. You can visit us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, the nearest auto dealership to you, a Starbucks, the dry cleaners. We're everywhere you look. Until next week, just remember, I want you to always have fun, always be humble, and most of all, be fearless.